President Trump pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. The president said that the decision is good for America. Several states disagree. 3 states, including New York, Washington State, and California, rebel by forming a coalition to fight climate change. I want to bring in Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy. Congressman Duffy, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
What about these states rebelling against President Trump? Your thoughts on the backlash that we're seeing this morning?
Well, we expect nothing less. We have liberal states who would want us to be in this climate accord. I mean, I look at Bob Iger and Elon Musk. Do you think those two actually voted for Donald Trump? I mean, these two were in the tank for Hillary Clinton. So I think Donald Trump was nice enough to ask them to sit on his presidential council. But these are progressive liberals. But if you look at where I come from, I'm in Wisconsin, Maria. The forgotten men and women who finally have a president who is going to fight for them, implement policies. They're going to help grow their economy and grow their jobs and grow their incomes. They sit back, and though they don't have big microphones, they don't sit on really important panels, they applaud what the president did yesterday. I was listening to his speech, and I thought President Trump absolutely crushed it, as he didn't care about, France. He doesn't care about, the progressive liberals. He cares about the men and women who haven't had a raise in 10 years. And I think all across Wisconsin you had people applauding him. And I think speeches like yesterday and pulling out of this accord is the reason why Donald Trump won this election and Hillary Clinton lost. So yeah. Good on him.
Congressman, yesterday was really telling because Maria actually had Jason Furman on, who was the Council of Economic Advisors for President Barack Obama, and he was supporting this. He was supporting the Paris Climate Accord. He said it's going to be good for business.
But he couldn't answer it.
He couldn't answer it. And she says, how? And I thought he was going to pass out and faint. He didn't have an answer. And I look at your state. This would have negatively impacted farmers and a lot of small businesses. Can you talk to that effect of the detriment it would have had on your state and a lot of the small businesses there?
Well, to our farmers, and we have a lot of light manufacturing all across our state. And when you have to meet these targets by 2025, and one of our main competitors is China, and they don't even start to look at their carbon emissions until 2030, of course, as Donald Trump said, this is a bad deal. Again, we have people who haven't had raises, people who haven't been lifted up at all by the Obama economy and at the end of the Bush economy. And so you might not get to hear from them, but they love that someone's looking out for their job. And as I listened to the speech, I'm like, we're winning again. Donald Trump is connecting with the American people.
But in terms of how the Congressman Stegan McDowell, in terms of how the American people feel about the danger of climate change, that you do see climate change is of growing importance, or dealing with it among American voters, and it's a particularly important issue among young voters. So ultimately, it's up to the GOP, even come during the midterm elections, to message what is going on in terms of cutting emissions in this country, message it better.
Well, Deg, and I was watching you yesterday. I think you made this point brilliantly, is that the U.S. economy is reducing our emissions because of technology, because of hydraulic fracturing. You made that point really well. And so as our emissions are on the decline, we're actually making progress on this front. And you have to go back to what President Trump said, which was, this is not about climate change and globally coming together and getting an agreement to reduce emissions. This is about a bad deal for America and the American worker. And I'm here to fight for them. I'll join the liberals in the U.S. Senate and other countries that want to talk about how we can all structure a good deal that works for the climate. But everyone has to participate. We just can't carry the brunt of this load. I mean, our American economy, our country and emissions is like a little Prius. And you have India and China that are 1976 Cutlass Supremes, and they're coming after the little Prius who has smaller emissions, and the Cutlass, they don't have to do anything for 5 years after we have to hit our target.
Once again, the U.S. is the loser in another deal. I mean, it's incredible.
I just wanted to point out something that is complete high comedy. That Emmanuel Macron, in that address, we played a bit of it, is saying to U.S. engineers and scientists, come and work with us. He's trying to use it as a recruiting tool. A country that has the most onerous regulations, particularly on entrepreneurs and small businesses. He wants, you know what, our engineers and scientists stay here because because they can actually start businesses and make money and become rich and help the environment at the same time.
Congressman Duffy, this is Joni Courtney. I'm curious your take. You mentioned that President Trump obviously was very generous in inviting some of the business leaders on the council, and they came out strongly. Elon Musk, the head of Disney, coming out saying they don't want to be a part of this. And I agree, yes, they were on the Clinton campaign, but I find it interesting that they would take this opportunity to not want to have that chance to have the president's ear or influence him or try to get their policies and their ideas for policies across. What's your take on that, with them actually saying they're going to resign from the councils?
Sounds like it was a good excuse.
You know, two points to that. I think it's a good question though. But I think President Trump, if they had listened to him, was saying, I'm not opposed to a climate deal. I'm opposed to this climate deal, and that means there's an opening there for those two to have an influence on this issue with the president. But instead of doing that, I think they're more signaling to their left-wing bases that we're going to have a protest here and we're going to stand up and we're going to walk away. Point number one. But point number two, do you think these guys really are concerned about middle American economies? Do you think they're struggling to put food on their table and feed their families and pay their mortgages? No, they're not. And so they didn't run for president and have to win Wisconsin and Michigan and Iowa and Ohio, but Donald Trump did. And so it was Trump's message that resonated with the American people, not Iger or Elon Musk's message, which frankly would have failed.
Right. Didn't Iger miss the first meeting of the advisory council anyway, because he said he had a shareholders meeting? Remember that? The first meeting he didn't show up.
That was true though. He did have a board meeting.
Yeah, he had a board meeting for sure. Right. All right.